This is Pastor Tim coming to you again from Benedict United Methodist Churches in Central Texas, small churches with a big heart. We are talking about the Bible. We've done through a lot of podcasts to go back and look and see about the making up of the Bible and about the parts of the Bible, understand some of the basics. We try to go to the most simple perspective so that anybody can understand. The Bible is a complex book that if you start just reading it, it's hard to understand. But if you have some foundation, some way of leverage or platform on which to stand, you can understand it better. We encourage you to go look at those. We were talking about the parables lately. Jesus was famous for telling stories. He did it for a variety of reasons. One of them was to confound his opponents because they didn't understand these simple stories. They understood facts and they understood doctrine and they understood history, but they didn't understand stories. They didn't see the hidden meaning in that. And a lot of times he got people's attention with the stories because they were shocking. Sometimes we lose that shocking side of them. But that's usually the point of the story. And today we're doing the parable of the mustard seed. The mustard seed must have been pretty famous or maybe infamous at the time of of Jesus in the Middle East and Holy Land because the mustard seed was a tiny, tiny seed, but it was considered to be a weed. It would grow up in your garden and your crops, and you didn't want it there because it grew up to be a big plant and covered up the crops and what you were trying to grow. So you really didn't want mustard seeds. That was a bad thing to have mustard seeds grow in your garden. But it was the tiniest seed and hard to see, so they would easily get into your garden and blow into your garden without you intending to plant anything like that. So he used the mustard seed image because people understood it. They knew what he was talking about, and they knew the comparison. Sometimes he talked about the mustard seed being the tiniest bit of faith. If you just have faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. The idea is that with just the tiniest bit of faith, that was enough to grow your foundation to learn to trust God and follow Jesus. Which is, I think, the basis of faith. And so it just took a little bit of faith to begin to grow. In the parable of the mustard seed, talks about the seed growing in the garden. And it's the tiniest of seeds, and it grows to a great big bush. It's sometimes called a tree, but it's really a giant bush. It's kind of like mesquite. And it just grow anywhere and provides shelter for the animals, and it provides some good things. The idea was that the kingdom of God was like that. The kingdom of God was not necessarily something that people wanted to have around. They wanted to be in control. They wanted to have things their way. They didn't want God to be in charge. They didn't want the teachings of God to be the foundation for people. They didn't want to be away from the center of attention. So they didn't like the idea of the kingdom of God coming in, but it's going to grow anyway. God's going to make a way for it to grow and become larger and more apparent as time goes on. And so the kingdom of God is like that. It's going to go where it's planted, sometimes where it's not wanted, even in places that are hostile to God, hostile to the ways of God. But it has a way of bringing up everywhere. So if you want to see the kingdom of God, look for it in some of the most unlikely places and watch it grow, because it'll take seed, take root, and become something that's helpful to all the society. So he was talking about his own ministry, and it did grow like a weed. It did grow all over the world, spread all over the world, so that it's one of the largest faiths in the world, because Jesus told his disciples to go tell people. So it grew like a mustard seed. So we can have faith in God and it look for the ways that it grows around us and in other people and in most unlikely places. I hope that's helpful. I'll see you next time.